Hey there, you're listening to Scale to Sell, the business owner's podcast to grow and exit your business, where we share with entrepreneurs like you the tactical and practical things you can do so that you can win at work and life. I'm Adam Burton, part of the father-son duo behind Scale to Sell podcast, and I, along with my dad Steve and the rest of the team, are on a mission to help business owners get the clarity they need to grow and exit their business successfully. Now, before we get into the episode, I wanted to let you know about the weekly Business Builder Thursday guide we send out to our community of entrepreneurs. We include even more tactical and practical things you can do in your business beyond what we cover on the podcast. Plus, we'll keep you up to date when new episodes hit, give you some behind the scenes looks at the business, and let you know when we have some exclusive masterclass trainings available for you. So go to scaletosell.com, that's scaletosell.com, or click the link in the show notes and sign up for the Business Builder Thursday email. You'll get your free but valuable weekly guide each Thursday morning. Again, that's scaletosell.com or click the link below in the show notes. This is episode 5. We are talking about internal versus external sales, part 1 of our conversation here. And while some business owners have at least contemplated whether they would like to sell the business externally or to transfer the business to someone already in the company, it's safe to say, I think from our experience and the conversations that we've had with business owners, that many of them have not fully considered, have thought through all of the considerations they need to in order to make a fully informed decision when choosing between an external and an internal sale. And so we're doing a 2-part mini-series on the key considerations, the pros and cons of what it looks like to transfer the business. So that for this episode, we're going to focus on the internal sale, the internal transfer of the business. So Steve, what's an internal sale and why is it an attractive option for a lot of business owners?
There's any number of reasons, but internal means inside. Somebody within the business now, somebody that's probably a family member in many cases, but not always, because not all children, for whatever reason, want to take over the family business. Or it can be a key person, operations manager, or people. It may be more than one person that you want to do it. But typically inside the business is what we're talking about in this show.
Yeah. So why is that an option that some people look to as their exit strategy for how they're going to transfer the business and hopefully get some type of value out of it?
Well, I mean, it's your business becomes like your family. If you spent years, decades even in that business, and it becomes like your family. So it's hard to give up. So that continuity of keeping somebody there in the family, keeping that legacy going on, because again, the kids are probably growing up around the business, if not in the business. And so one, or maybe sometimes even more than that, children internally want to stay in the business. You keep the legacy going, the reputation, the name of the business would likely stay the same in many cases. So there is that. And family members are the first line of opportunity there in many cases.
Yeah, so continuity, both in terms of the service that you provide and the legacy that you've, as a business owner, right? I can imagine it would be difficult to have worked on something for so many years and then to see it go to a competitor and, the name changes or the quality of care changes, and you want to see what you've built continued, certainly. And I guess another benefit would be you don't have to go looking for a buyer, right? In theory, right? Like an external sale, you're not going out and trying to find either a competitor or some other group that is going to come in and have to purchase your business. So you're focused more on the transition process than you are on conducting an external search to find a viable candidate.
And that's an easy one, no doubt about it. You don't have to go to marketplace, but it also comes with its issues, as we'll talk about here in just a few minutes. But making sure that key person, that family member is willing and able, not just willing, but able, because sometimes mom and dad, or mom or dad, whoever's ran the business, make it look easy. And the kids think it's easy until they're handed the keys to the kingdom, and then it's not as easy as it looks sometimes.
Well, and another benefit, too, when you think about it, is when you're thinking about kind of the legacy aspect of it, if you're able to give someone who has been a part of the business, transfer to someone, the business, you're giving them a pretty incredible opportunity to step into an existing business, something that they don't have to start on their own, and they can kind of continue the entrepreneurial journey that you were able to enjoy. And that's a pretty incredible thing to be able to leave someone, whether it's a family member or someone that's been with you for a number of years. That's a pretty special opportunity in and of itself. So you started to allude to this, though. While there are some benefits of not having to go find someone to take over the business, and some of the continuity things that you can enjoy, there are some cons, some negatives to this choice when it comes to exiting the business that business owners need to be aware of. If they're not, it could really do themselves some harm. What are some of the concerns that you would want to communicate to a business owner who's considering an internal sale?
Well, of course, our goal would be, and hope and dream would be, that our children would take and build off of what we've built up into this time. And sometimes they have the skill sets and the desire, the drive to do just that. But the concerns are, there's many. First off, you're probably going to sell the business at a discount. Many cases, the children don't have that kind of money laying around, so you're gonna have to finance it over time. And if they're capable and willing and able, and the business is viable in the long term, you'll get your money back, but over a longer period of time, and that could actually benefit the owner too. But on the downside of that, if they fall apart, the business, whatever, whether it's a child's or whoever the family member's situation, their skill sets, or the industry changes, or a variety of reasons, then that business goes down and you don't get the money that you're offered. Sometimes also, in addition, although your key employees beyond your family members there are they okay working with you? Will they be okay transitioning and seeing that child there as especially if they've been around for a long time? Yeah. They might see a 20-something-year-old now taking, giving orders to somebody in their 40s or 50s and feel like they've been passed over. So that becomes with problems too. Having systems and processes in place. There's any variety of things that can go wrong with this internal sale.
Yeah, so those are some key considerations. If you're going to make that choice, you need to think about the fact that you may have to wait longer to get your money. And if so, that raises the level of risk, right? And so when you're thinking about your personal retirement plans and what the sale of the business is going to mean in building and establishing your retirement income going forward, that's a level of risk that you need to account for. You have to be able to plan on if you're going to go that option. Do they have the skill sets and the desire to do that? We've seen that case where even situations where they thought they did, right? Thought they had the skill sets or the desire to do it, and then stepped into it and realized the hard way after the transition was already done, after the parents had left the company and were enjoying their retirement. And now they're looking back and like, this isn't what I thought it was. I'm not enjoying this like I wanted to. This isn't really what I wanted to do. And that creates some problems going forward, not only for the company, but for the ability of those people to get the full amount of that value.
And if there's more than one child in the business, who's going to run the business? And is the other one going to see that as okay, I'm falling in line for the greater good of the team. I see why you, the parent, are making that choice. Or it's a child that's not in the business. And now most of your wealth is tied up in the business, and they're feeling slighted because, hey, the kids, your two sons or daughters or whoever it is, but a third or fourth child out there is not involved in the business. So there's any number of things that with the family dynamic that can come back and kind of mess up the situation.
And that's a key consideration that I think a lot of people might overlook is the estate planning concerns, right? Especially like you were saying, if you have one or more kids, whether they're in the business or not, if there's a difference in that relationship and what they would get, money causes conflict, right? In those situations. And even people, you've seen it before where family members pass in certain situations, and they're in that situation where the family's going through that process of dividing the estate based on the wishes of the parents. And when there's questions, when there's accusations, there's all kinds of things, it gets messy. And we want clarity in this, and we want to make sure that we go about this in a thoughtful, intentional way to try to avoid as much of those human conflicts as possible.
The other thing I would say, absolutely, all that is true. If you're looking to exit, you need to make sure you're careful when you roll it out to your team, because if you roll it out prematurely, rumors start flying around, you're losing key employees, and then you'll make it harder on the transition. That's yet another thing. That's true of whether it's a family member that internally will be taken over or another key person inside the business. And you got to do things. There's a process to doing this. And as we've said before, in transition of business, some of you have sold more than one business. But in most cases, it's a one-time thing. It's not like selling a house where you've maybe had 2, 3, 4, 5 houses. This is typically the one time, and you've got to get it right to make sure that you get top dollar, that you leave the business in good order for either the external or, in this case, the internal sale, whether it's a family member, key person, or key persons. And anyways, a lot to consider here, and that's why we're trying to educate you as to what, sometimes the old saying is, it's what you don't know. And that's what we're trying to do, is give you enough information to seek out guidance from us and our experts around the country there to make sure that the transition at whatever point in time. And by the way, you need to be, even if you're thinking about exiting your business in 10 or 20 years, or you're just getting started, you always want to have a transition plan in place, because you can never tell an accident, an illness, a disease. Something can force you, burnout. There's all kinds of things that can cause you, but always want to be prepared to sell, even if it's down the road a while.
That's a really good point. Exiting your business, not something to jump into and ask questions later. That's just a recipe for disaster. And that's why having, like you were saying, having a team of experts, having the group of people that knows what to do and knows how to take those steps in the right way that can guide you, especially if you've never done something before, right? This is not time for on-the-job training. We need to get this right for your sake, for the company's sake, for everyone's sake going through it.
Let me throw something out. I met with somebody recently, a business owner, and we've been talking for about 9 months, I believe. Business has been in the family for over 50 years, thinking about exiting, got family members working inside the business that are, one of them at least is willing to take over the business, but really has other interests beyond that. But again, it's a family business, multi-generational business here. And so he wants to be able to let his son go do what he wants to do, what his other dreams are. But he's got dozens of employees. And when I talk to him, instead of an external sale, what if we can arrange it and make sure we have systems and processes in place, and even financing? There are programs out there. And even though these employees themselves don't have the resources probably to write the check for the value of the business, there are programs out there we can capture that money. So in this case, it's not just your immediate family members, your bloodline. It's that your teammates in many cases are like family, and we want to take care of them on the exit in many cases as well.
That's a very good point, and something that you must consider if you're looking at this difference between an internal sale and external one. So just to recap, the pros: bypass looking for a buyer, right? You're starting with someone who already knows the company and who's there and can be a part of that legacy building opportunity. The continuity purposes. The cons: you may get less for the company. Typically that's the case, and it may take longer to get, which raises risk when it comes to your personal retirement and financial planning. Is the person ready, able, willing to take over? And how does that transition happen? And how will the impact your overall estate plan if you have other children, other beneficiaries to consider in that? So some of the key takeaways for the day: ask yourself these questions. What am I looking to achieve from exiting the business? What am I looking to achieve? As we're going through, this is part 1, and episode 6 will come back and give us the other side of the picture to help round out this. But is there someone who has the skills and desires to transition into owning the business? And how could an internal sale achieve those goals? Is that the right option? Something to consider. And hopefully these talking points have at least started that conversation in our brains to consider what this could look like, and we can continue that conversation with you going forward. If you liked this episode and want to hear more from Scale to Sell, please follow the show on your podcast platform of choice so that you never miss an episode. As a new and growing podcast, rating and reviewing the podcast would be incredibly helpful so that more entrepreneurs like yourself can find our content and join our growing community. And remember, if you haven't signed up for the Business Builder Thursday weekly guide, check out scaletosell.com, scaletosell.com, so that you can check out the valuable resources and get those in your inbox each week. We'll see you next time on the Scale to Sell podcast.